Bernard Irongo, Senior Programs Manager at Flapmax. Today I'm at Taimba, one of the startups in Kenya, in Nairobi, and we are one of their go-downs here in Nairobi where they are doing agribusiness.
Growing up in the village, right, where I spent a lot of time with my parents, right, we are doing the normal farming. So we grow maize, beans, and when it's ready, we harvest and we try to sell. But what you find typically is that within a week or so, if you are not likely to be the first one to sell, right, the small brokers or the small buyers will run out of either the cash or the capital. They run out of space, and you're stuck with your crops. And if you don't find the market, you're looking at almost a 50-60% wastage of your grains in the next 3 months here. Looking at Taimba today, I'm sort of solving my problem, or the problem of my folks in the village right here. And of course, as I said, our business usually, there's a brick and mortar, because for farmer, it's not about the tech. It's about what value do offer to the farmers, the pricing, payments, because remember the cash flow is very tight for them. So we pay them the same day, right? And then again, we have to think about the farmers, they need to be sure when the produce is ready, where do they sell it? So we offer them that guarantee when the produce is ready. As long as it meets our quality standard, we're going to buy. And we are very transparent. The pricing is there. We are very open. When you talk to farmers, they actually are partners. And we are very open with them in terms of what are the pricing dynamics here.
Okay. All right. So we're in the heart of Nairobi at the moment.
Yeah.
You guys are operating in an urban space.
Yeah.
Maybe we can go through some of the activities that you do here Go Down.
Yeah.
So there's a farmers and there's a market. What are the main activities that happen here?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, right? So, this sourcing starts 6 months, earlier. Okay. And that's why you meet the farmers. You talk about the crops you need. And when the product is ready, farmers will do aggregation. So we have a lean farmer who take care of the harvesting, the aggregation. Then we're able to connect them with our third-party logistics partners who go pick the crops, and then they move that to Nairobi. So once they get here, we do a number of things. Once we do second level quality control, just to look at is it the right quality we need. And then at this point we do sorting, the grading, because the customer need a different grading of the same crop. And then we move to the cold storage. Then there's we also need to do ripening, other product just to make sure we extend the shelf life by using a cold storage. Then we do the dispatch. In terms of the dispatch, so our customer through our e-commerce platform will place an order before, and then we deliver the next day within 24 hours. So which means with the data we have, which we've been able to collect the last 3 or 4 years, right? We understand our demand and supply. All our team basically sit here. So that will be the technology team, the sourcing team, the warehouse team, and the sales team here. And this will be running from actually just before COVID, from March 2020. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So moving from the farmers and coming to the warehouse and then going to the customer, like you mentioned, you have an e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
And recently we moved to Azure. So one of the big steps that you're making, and along the way you also want to do AI. This came in from the Accelerator program. So maybe we can talk about the general feeling or how the journey has been migrating from the previous system to Azure.
Yeah, good. And of course there have been lots of learning, and of course the exposure, and just my team being able to see this is a huge opportunity. If you're able to leverage on all these great products coming from Microsoft through the program. Of course, one of the things we're looking at is how to take advantage of things like the AI, because we believe to handle the food insecurity in Kenya, we have to think about how do you digitize all the operation from the farm to the point you get the food actually on your table. And that starts with small things like how do farmers know it's not going to rain tomorrow, or do they know when is the right time to plant, and when do they know there's an issue with the crops and they need immediate attention. So that could be either pest, that could be either disease, right? So you have to think about imagery, which is able to get this data, which is a big data, and then basically simply with that data in a form that our farmers can actually understand what actually they need to take. Almost like being able to break that information to their local language, so that they're able to understand fine, what kind of pest do I need to buy to mitigate this risk. I look at Tanzania as a food basket for Africa, right? So strategically, we're already moving there. We're already activating a number of farm groups. But then again, we need to get this data to a point where if I'm a sourcing lead, right, I should be able to get to the platform and it tells me the next 6 months, I need to get my sourcing here. Or there's a risk in this region. Why? Because there are no rains, or farmers are not able to afford a fertilizer. So this is a big data, but then I got to break it down to a small packet that actually farmers can understand and make decisions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a big step. And speaking of agribusiness, because agribusiness is a very big industry at the moment, what are some of the big challenges that you face, and what are some of the solutions you have in mind that can help resolve some of these challenges?
Yeah. So some of the challenges is basically the infrastructure. So think of a situation when you travel to your village and your folks, what do? They ask you to connect to your hotspot. So that is no one can afford it. And these are things we can take for granted. Also think about, the cost of calling is still very high. And these are some of, bottleneck blockers that, basically, challenge the innovation. So also the other infrastructure challenge is basically electricity. When you go to the villages, farmers can, those who can afford smartphone, but you find they don't have reliable electricity. And because then again, if you're able to collect this data in real time, it allows farmers to make decisions faster. But if you don't have a smartphone or they don't have the right infrastructure, then that means fine. Even though you have solutions, they can't take advantage of the solutions there. But when you think of India, it's one huge, almost 1 billion global market, one currency. But Africa, we have to think about a 42 currency, right? So we're building a model for a product that we plan to replicate across African market. But then again, you have to think about, how do you overcome some of these challenges? I think could be either through the partnerships, and I'm looking at some of the startups that's already in the program. How do you leverage on some of the digitization solutions they are building? Yeah.
Okay. So Taimba, basically based on some of the activities you're doing, is a small to medium enterprise.
Yeah.
What do you think of the current space in Kenya, of SMEs in general, that are trying to fill the gap in agribusiness, and what are some of the advices you give them?
If I to distribute a food across the Nairobi and the neighboring counties, I need to get all those multiple distribution licenses. And there's a cost, there's a logistical nightmare, right? And also the other thing where you find there are all these new, either the tax, policy that are coming up, and you have to overcome all that. But, of course, as a founder, you need that resilience to go, to overcome that. And I believe what you're building in Kenya, it's a very strong ecosystem that allows different, players in the industry to learn from each other, to collaborate. But also, I think the cause is also coming of age. But of course, I know there's a huge challenge around the funding for the indigenous entrepreneurs. So I think we can sort out that, because I want to believe they are very, very good ideas. They are very good solutions. They are very good innovations in Kenya, but there's no funding. And one of the challenges I keep saying, is to look at, the local folks who are high net worth individuals. Instead of just investing in, the real estate and the government boards, how do you educate them to understand there's also an opportunity in a startup, right? It's a bigger risk, but also a very huge return. And I believe if we can support the startup ecosystem, I think this is how we can have the real impact in the economy.
Okay. So Taimba is, like you said, an SME. What are some of who are some of your main customers that you supply to the different products?
The informal trader makes 90% of our customers currently today. Then the other 10%, it's a mix of the mini-marts, the eateries, restaurants, the schools, the hospitals, right? Yeah. And our model is all about how do you ensure, we deliver affordable quality food to either the informal traders, also the modern accounts there.
Okay. And some of the farmers, especially the young farmers, how do they reach out to Taimba to sell their products?
If you're able to give them a platform where they know they can basically, create the account and say, hey, Taimba, this is what I'm doing. I'm in this region. Can you come down and check out my product, right? And you created that digital, interaction platform. Then that means you get a new farmer who basically you're able to either educate about the modern means of the production. You can talk about mechanization. You can talk about the lean models of farming. You also talk about their productivity. And so these are guys actually you can basically support. either through other partners. This could be either the financial institutions, because they already understand, the modern needs of the customer, the consumers, and you can grow them. Yeah. So I think it's a big opportunity. You put the element of digitization there. You talk about how do you fund, because then again, they don't have a capital, they don't have title deeds to go borrow. Then again, how do you create a new product that's able to support them and basically live their dreams?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the challenges that farmers face is access to markets, which you guys are sort of resolving in a way. For people who want to do, or people who are working with perishables, are you able to source from them for an extended period of time? And if so, what's the surety for such kind of farmers?
We have a calendar which they understand across the months. When are we coming to serve from their village? But also they can call and say, hey, Taimba, my product, my crop is actually ready. The other crops as potatoes, right? We're able to change your farm groups across the year, which is system we coming down to source and what have you. So what we've seen, if you're able to create a model where farmers have that confidence, they can actually plant, you can buy, you're transparent. And then again, you also have to think about what are the other needs of these farmers. So they could be either the micro insurance, they could be either, small loans to increase their productivity. Then you're able to create that stickiness from the farmers there.
So these are very interesting use case.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dominic, for showing up. In terms of partnerships, and government and private sector, what do you think is the gap between all these different partners? The government, private sector, public sector. What's the gap in between?
We keep talking about the devolution, like in Kenya. That comes with another huge cost and to run a business in Kenya. I think how do we have governments engage with the private sector, but also go extra mile and they talk to startups, because private sector is huge. You have a mature businesses, you have a startups and all that, and all these have got a totally different needs, or they have a different way to interact with the government, they give feedback, and also to feel their input is actually taken into consideration when you're coming up with some of these bills, because you can have a lots of bills that are really stifling growth and innovation. So I think it's to look at on the fintech space, right? And one of the we're looking at a building, it's this solution that allows farmers, to borrow from equity, from KCB, but not having to go through some of these, very, traditional bureaucratic kind of approval process, right? You're like recommending the farmer to on behalf of the banks. For banks, we look at these consumers or these customers or these borrowers are very risky, but for us, these are reliable customers. When you look at us being able to grow, without these customers, we'll not be able to achieve the milestones. So when you look at the data we have, these are customers we deliver in the morning and in the afternoon they pay. So I think for the banker, you build a product in partnership with a startup like Taimba, a product that organically, right, respond to the needs of the informal trader.
All right. So based on your experience so far, how close is Kenya to obtaining food security?
Agriculture only gets less than 3% from annual budget, and agriculture contributes over that percent in GDP. It blows over 75% of the people or the population. But so these are the industries that have been largely ignored. There's no innovation. And when you look at what needs to happen, the road network is not there. You go to some of the counties that actually food basket for Kenya. And when you can't access those roads. So there's a lot that needs to be done by the central government, just more from the framework policy, right? But then also from the local government, just to ensure if at all the crop is ready as time, but we can go and collect whether it rains or doesn't rain, right? So I think it's a huge challenge, and that's we need collaboration from either the government, private sector, the NGOs, and then the startup, and it's everyone. But I think that should be that deliberate effort to get all these different players in one table.
Okay. Yeah. So as we conclude, where do you see Taimba in 5 to 10 years?
Good. I think when you look at during COVID, it was tough for most of businesses, but also we grew very well. We've been able to almost triple our revenue year on year. And also, when you look at our growth, this has been driven by a very lean team, right? And also with a very lean investor. So we're looking at, of course, fundraising that will allow us to grow business. So in the next 3 to 4, we're looking at having, expanded to other East African markets. So as I mentioned earlier, Tanzania, that's a very interesting market. We need to go there just due to reliability of the production. Uganda, again, are also exciting market. 'Cause remember today, you have a lot of food moving across all these three markets, and also East Africa community has grown. Now we have a Burundi. We're also looking at Ethiopia. I think we look at that as a one huge market for us. But then again, of course, they are different, challenging, but we look at a huge opportunity if we're able to open in all these markets here.